We are live.
We're live. We're back, Joe. Well, first off, Joe, happy November. It is almost that time, turkey time. This is kind of everyone's favorite time. You got to eat really good. But I hope you had a great month so far.
It's been adventurous. I will continue to say this for the remainder of this year and probably forever in life. But this has been a very interesting year, quote unquote. So it's been good. I hope yours has been good as well, my friend. It's I think today has been is going to be a great
It
event.
is.
I know it's Thanksgiving week, and here in the states, a lot of people are going to be off. A lot of people keep sharing the meme saying, "I hope my email doesn't find me well." During this week, or don't send me it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be a good one. We have a great guest today, and
Yeah, I'm excited that we have a guest. This is two episodes in a row. We're gonna have a guest, and my favorite meme is the one where people say this is about that time where people respond, "Let's circle back after the holidays." So these are the ones that everyone loves. But I'm excited for our guest today, and I think as we gear up for this episode and then our final episode in December, this is just a perfect way to lead into the end of the year. And so I think first off, welcome everyone to the Evolution of Engagement, where we talk all things experiential on all levels. This is a community of people who, from the agency side, the brand side, our production, as well as brand ambassadors, everyone that makes events go forward, hospitality as well. So it's important that we find a place and we create this place for those to connect and communicate. So as you're watching today's show, and if there's anything that catches your eye or you see someone in the chat, don't hesitate to reach out. And also to myself or Joe, we're always up for conversations. But I think we're ready to get into today's episode. I'm going to bring our guest up and
yeah,
then I'll
yes,
pass it over to you.
I'm gonna do a nice little intro. This is someone I hold in high regard in our industry, even though she might not want to always say that about herself. But I think she's incredibly talented. Has acted like an unofficial mentor to me, and someone that is very has such a unique perspective on our industry. Nicola Kastner, everyone, please say hello, and you can say your little spiel of you. I don't have to do it for you.
Sure. Thanks for having me. First morning back from vacation. So still a little bit foggy, but thrilled to be here. It's actually an incredibly quiet week for me as a Canadian, not Thanksgiving for me. So I'm like, it's probably going to be the most productive week of the year that I have once I recover from my vacation mode. So Nicola Kastner, for those of you that don't know me, I am the CEO of Event Leaders Exchange, or ELX for short, which is a community of senior global heads of events from a corporate perspective. Prior to that, I was a consultant and also was most notably the global vice president of event marketing strategy for SAP for 5.5 years. So, and then before that, agency side. So I've kind of like had the whole spectrum of the industry, and just thrilled to be here.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, Nicola, this is one of those. Our whole series here is based on what is that evolution of engagement, right? So, whether it's corporate events, whether it's an experiential pop up, or whether it's just kind of understanding the industry as a whole, whether you're vendor, whether you're agency, brand, I think it's important to kind of see like what is that evolution, and we only have you for a limited time today. So for everyone that is tuning in or joining in, we have until I think 12:30 Eastern time right now to have her. Marcus and I will stay on a little bit after, but we wanted to jump right in. Marcus, you got a question for Nicola? I think it'd be a good springboard there from.
Yeah. So you mentioned a little bit of your journey, and from the agency side to more of the brand side, and kind of leading the charge there. What do you see is the difference from the agency side to the brand side when you look at the event space, as well as more of where you sit today from a data standpoint? What is driving the brand side, and what is truly driving the agency?
Wow, that is a loaded and massive question. So we might have to break that down into a few pieces. I think so. If I talk about my experience from the difference, to me, I think I'll start with brand side. Brand side, you're able to get really deep into the business and understand the business and the business needs and bring the brand to life. Like you understand how to do that. And that is something, especially if it's not a long-standing agency of record relationship, something you have to bring the agency along with. Flip side from the agency side is you bring so many different perspectives to the table and see so many different industries, different clients, that I always look to my agency partners to give me those insights and bring those insights. You know, the worst thing we can do as brands is hire an agency and say, stay in this box. We only want you to stay in this box. So, you know, there's a lot that the agency side can bring to us as brand leaders to help bring our own brands to life. So there's a difference. There's a difference in role, and there's a difference in sort of daily focus. But that's where I see the synergies of the two being super, super strong.
Yeah, and I love that, and hearing that, even just not putting the agency in the box, because there's so much uniqueness behind the scenes. But then you touched on something that's really key, is like being able, on the brand side, you're able to really tap in on and get really in depth on the metrics and what's really driving that business. One thing that I have heard a lot of is the return on investment from doing events. And some feel it's brand affinity, some feel it's kind of hard to tie it to sales. Do you have a thought there, or a generalization of how you would approach that kind of question?
Oh, do I ever? No, we don't know each other very well. You have just walked right into my sweet spot. I mean, measurement is what I've built my career on. It has been my career differentiator throughout my career, and it's something I write about all the time on LinkedIn. I think absolutely you can measure a return on your events. I don't know necessarily that return on investment is the right metric, and I'll tell you why. Truly using an ROI metric means that you have to be able to isolate the effects of the particular event on the business outcome. You also need to look at fully loaded costs, and I'll use an example of my days.
Wait, you got to repeat that for the people. Say it one more time. You said truly using ROI. Yeah.
So using ROI means you need to be able to truly take credit for for what you're claiming credit for. So you have to be able to isolate the impact, right? And then you also need to be looking at fully loaded costs, not just your event costs. So I'll give you an example. When I was at SAP, my team was responsible for Sapphire, which was our largest event, flagship event, 26,000 people the last year. I ran it in person, massive. And it was our largest pipeline driver of the year for the company. Mm-hmm. A lot of costs, a lot of effort, a lot of time from the company that went into that. For me to claim that Sapphire and Sapphire alone was the only thing that had driven business impact for multi-million-dollar sales is ludicrous. It's like saying, I decided to marry my spouse 30 days after one dinner, and only that one dinner could take any credit for it, right? So see what I mean about trying to be able to isolate the impact, but to truly have an ROI discussion, you need to be able to do that. The other thing is, if I look at the costs for Sapphire, what sat on my budget was the cost to run the event. What it didn't take into account was the labor cost. We had like 3,500 people or something that worked on content across the company. It didn't take into account T&E. It didn't take into account all of those types of things.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how I would have gone about getting them. So I just say, be very careful when you use ROI, right? Because your CFO understands ROI in the true sense of the term ROI, and we start to lose credibility. I don't necessarily call it return on objectives, but I think that's truly what it is. And it starts with setting your objectives up front early in the planning process. If you don't know what success looks like, how can you design for success. So understanding what that success needs to be, what you need the event to achieve, and it doesn't have to be one objective. There's multiple objectives and there's multiple objective categories. And it will be different by event, by company, by stage of the customer sales cycle, but identify clearly up front what those objectives are, then, and how that tells you what data you need in order to measure the success. It tells you what you need to design within the pre and during and post event experience to achieve those things. And then it gets you to the end result that you need. Starting at the end and going, hey, let's try and claim success when you didn't is fruitless. Like, don't even bother, right? You know, define it up front and ask the important questions. And this is one thing that I find people in our industry are often quite scared, not scared to do, maybe that's not the right word. People don't ask the questions often enough because they're worried that if I go below surface level, I'm going to be exposed for not knowing how to get to the next step or asking the right questions. No one ever gets fired for asking questions. And if you did, you probably shouldn't be at that company anyway. Ask questions and you'll get the right answers that will allow you to design for the right experience and the right objectives.
Marcus, should we just end this today? Should we just end this right now after that drop of
mic drop? And Jaren just commented, shout out to Jaren being tuning in. This is good information. This is real information that I think a lot of people want to understand and grasp, but then you just put it in a very simple way to be able to bring it to a larger group. And so I love that. So again, I dropped some key gems here, which was, hold on, I wrote them down. Set your objectives early in the process. In order to truly measure ROI, you need to be able to separate. Say it one more time. I'm getting it. You need to be able to separate.
You need to be able to separate, like you need to be able to claim success, right? So think about that. Think about the engagement analogy, because that's the best way that I can say, right? In order to claim success, like a relationship is a series of touch points, as is a customer journey. And you can't say only this one touch point is responsible for it. So going back to the engagement analogy, saying one dinner and only one dinner within 30 days of one particular dinner, I decided to get married to my spouse. It's ludicrous, right? And so that's what we pigeonhole ourselves into if we try and do that in the business perspective as well.
So that's it right there.
I guess Nicola, to keep on the board of like currently like what's been going on, because obviously like those success stories that you've had in the past, and I know you've told me firsthand them, and it's unbelievable what you've been able to achieve, and then also like kind of bring it forward in like this and that perfect analogy. What have you been seeing that does follow that line of work, that line of like return on objectives and stuff like that? Have you seen anything recently this year? I mean, anyone I've been talking to, and I'm going off on tangent, but anyone I've been talking to have kind of been saying that experiential events is causing a lot of noise right now, and that even next year is going to be even more noise, you know? And I mean that in a positive manner, but I'd love to hear what you've seen kind of work and what you think has been positive in our industry right now.
Well, I think experiential and events aren't necessarily creating the noise. I think it's a lot of us around it that are creating the noise. If I'm completely honest, I mean, the beauty of COVID in our industry was that we now understand the impact of experiences and events and experiential. Once they were taken away, and remember when they were first taken away during the pandemic, people said, they're never going to come back. We can replace everything with digital. And now we know the power.
No, we know the power.
Such an amazing place to be, but we have to quantify the power. We have to talk about the outcomes. I've written about this multiple times on LinkedIn and got such amazing responses. Is like achieving success is only one part of the story. Telling that success story is really important, and thinking about what that impact is greater is so important for us, the industry. I call it the trifecta of impact, because there's multiple impacts. I was just talking about the business impact, and that's what we often pay attention to as an industry, right? Like what's it driven to the business and to the bottom line, or sold more widgets, made employees happier, reduced turnover, whatever your objectives of what you're trying to design an event to do. Because at the end of the day, an event always needs to achieve a business objective.
Yep.
So that's one thing. So there's the business impact, there's the personal impact. Events impact people. My career was changed by a session I took at an event early in my career. It was so incredible. I can still remember what I was wearing, where I was sitting in the room, what that handout looked like. It literally changed the trajectory of my career. So events do impact lives. We need to talk about that impact. And then there's impact on the sort of the community that hosts the event, right? So that economic impact, job creation, spend in the community. I call that the trifecta of impact, and under that sweet spot of all of them is massive. And I think we need to be able to tell that story better as an events and experiential industry, because while your stakeholders may care about the business impact, the greater impact story is A, more powerful, and B, offsets what I think is the next big challenge for us in the industry that's coming to bite us, is sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
The most sustainable event is no event. But we know what happens when there's no events. So if we need to make the most sustainable choices, but then we need to talk about that trifecta of impact. And I think that's the way to balance the sustainability conversation.
You got, I don't know if you had anything, Joe.
I was almost going to, but Marcus, please.
Yeah, I think I want to touch on something, and that's the sustainability part. I think a lot of the businesses, probably over the last 3 to 4 years, did implement some sustainability kind of, specifically before the pandemic, started implementing sustainability rules within their projects, especially with their production and vendor companies. And I haven't heard much lately. It's kind of died down just a little bit, but as things shift, especially a lot of the money moves around on the government side, I think there's going to be a big push again to make sure these productions have sustainable materials. Do you foresee kind of like it being more laws, or more just like general kind of behaviors that teams start to take on to say, hey, we want to make sure that 20% of our experience is sustainable, used by sustainable materials?
It's a good question. I don't think it's going to be laws. I mean, events are global and cross geography, and each government will have different perspectives, especially the incoming administration in the US has a perspective about climate and sustainability that is different than some other places in the world, right? I think it's companies. Most companies have signed commitments to be carbon free by X amount of dates. So how can a company have that commitment, but we're not carbon free or working towards carbon free within our events? Because I think you hit a really good point. It did seem like the focus on it has died down, and it's sort of, it almost feels like it's perceived as a nice to have, but you know what? Budgets are restricted, right? Even if our budgets are the same now as they were pre-COVID, we've gone up, we've had 35% increase in costs. So we're actually at a 35% deficit. And so we're trying to do more with less. And sustainability is one of those things that seems to be cut first, unfortunately, but we're going to have to find that right balance of it because of these commitments that our organizations have moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. And we've seen, like you said, we've seen it kind of die down, but like you said, there's real cost changes that are happening. And I think that's the biggest thing is like, things in the world have gone up. So you can't just spend like you spent before 2020. So I think that's super key.
Yeah, that has been a big, I know I'm very adamant on the B2C space, but I tend to be involved more on the B2B space, and the intertwine of both of those has never been more so right now. Everyone's taking certain elements from a B2B to apply it to a B2C experience, and then vice versa. And so I think that line has been blurred so much now.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? The B to H. I don't want to but we're all humans. We're all consumers in our daily lives. And it's not like we put our hat on when we're in our business environment and go, I'm no longer going to be the person I am the rest of the day when I'm not at work. That's not the case.
No, I know. And I think that's something that I've been very adamant on seeing. I'm seeing it more so on my end of agencies, and Marcus, maybe you can attest to it, but everyone keeps coming out with these trend decks, these event trends. What else is there? And that's great. There are trends, right? That's what the word is. But at the same time, I'd like to think, where's the hockey puck going as opposed to where the hockey puck is? That's my best way of putting it. And I've been kind of asking this question, which is the one I wanted to ask you, Nicholas, like, what emotion have you seen to be the most impactful, or the one that tends to be evoked the hardest at an experience? And I've had people answer in the past, joy, nostalgia, something like that. But I'd be curious what you've seen has been something extremely impactful toward you.
That's a hard question.
I know. That's why I love it.
I don't know. Can I I need to think about that. I mean, it's interesting because I've always been B2B, right? And being in the B2B space, I'm not going to say it's an emotion, but one of the things that I think is my personal most important metric, and especially if I think about it in the events we run at ELX, right? I've got heads of, you can't imagine a tougher critic audience, the global heads of large corporate event organizations, and I'm going to run an event for them. It's like, oh my gosh, there's nothing worse. I can't. It's wonderful experience, but to me, my most important metric, and it's not an emotion per se, but it's return on time investment. And was this a good use of your time? So I'm not going to measure, did I make you feel joy?
Yeah.
Or sad, or but was this a good use of your time? That's not an emotion, but
no.
That's what I think about.
That's beautiful. When people say time is the most valuable currency, was it utilized in a really cathartic and genuine way? I would say that's the most important piece, especially when you have people traveling and the amount of schedules and conflicts and logistics. It's like time is that essence. And I know people can say like everything's about prioritization in life, you can obviously put that into the category of events and experiences, but really like that's a great way of time right there is what's the return on time. But that's really good. I like that.
I also think about it, I talked about setting objectives up front. I break out, like, when you're designing an event, into a simple 5-step process, and it's anything but simple, right? It's about understanding what success looks like. So you establish your objectives and evaluation needs up front. Then it's understanding your stakeholders. And it's when stakeholders, we often use that word as stakeholders, like, are the people that own the budget, or are the CEO of your company or whatever. Yes, that's one group of stakeholders, but your attendees are stakeholders. So you will never design an experience that is a good use of people's time if you are building only to meet business objectives. You need to meet your attendees' objectives as well, and you need to understand who those are, all the different segments of them, what percentage of them there are in each of the audiences, and what do they need. And I know, and we can come back to a way to understand that in a second, right? So once you understand those, then you design the right experience, you measure the experience, and then use all the inputs to design the next experience, right? Like, it's like, I know it's oversimplified, and each of those steps are really massive and complex in their own way. But when you think about those things, it simplifies it. But understanding your attendees is that second, as part of your stakeholder group, is so critical.
I love that. That's a key, Jim. Your attendees are your stakeholders as well. And I think
as are you sponsors, if you have sponsors.
Sponsors, true. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You need to find that balance between all of their needs.
Yeah. So you mentioned where you are today, right? You're at the Event Leaders Exchange, and you kind of gave us a little bit on that and what service you provide for the event industry, and it's really a space, a community as well. Can you share a little bit about what you all have done over the past year that you're open to sharing? And again, understanding there's a certain criteria to be a part of the organization, and but still just being able to share. I think there are people who would aspire to hopefully be there one day, but want to understand kind of what service you provide to those individuals.
Yeah. Yeah, great question. And actually, I have had one person tell me that being a member of ELX is on their vision board. And I'm like, take that as the most massive compliment that I could have in my career. So I'm new, actually, so I can't really talk for a year. I'm about 8 months into my journey at ELX. I joined in April. And really the community, it serves to be a safe space for heads of corporate events. It's lonely in those roles. I know, and events are different. Many people in organizations, they all think they know how to run events, but people don't know how to run events. If they planned a wedding or a dinner party, they think they're an event professional, right? And so events are different. And in many cases, peers or colleagues don't understand events and understand the nuances around events. Additionally, these leaders are protecting their teams in many, many cases from the politics of like, can you believe this is happening? I'm trying to deal with this. So what we do is we bring our leaders, our members together into a community under Chatham House rule, which I didn't actually know what that was when I joined, but it says you can use the information that you hear, but you can never say who said it, what company they're affiliated with, or who else is in the room. And that's part of what people agree to when they join the community. And that creates a safe space and a trusting space. And, people, the challenges that people have within the community are consistent. Coming from a tech background, I always thought tech was the only ones that were kind of screwed up. No, it's consistent across the industry. I found no matter geography, industry, whatever, events have individual challenges. So we bring them together in safe space through events, through digital content. We have resource libraries, we have open forum discussions and so forth, just to be able to share best practices and be a support for each other.
I love that. And it's a place that people can, again, aspire to get to, but also a place where those who are making decisions in the room can also bounce ideas off each other and, sharpen their knives. I think that, iron sharpens iron, and being able to sit in a room with others who have the same issues or have the same positive results, being able to discuss those amongst them is really key.
Great. Absolutely.
Yeah, having you mentioned safe space, and it's like it's so key. I've been a part of another community, and it's called like Experiential Collective, and it was created to make sure it was like a space where it was like no one's stealing ideas, no one's taking something and only taking instead of just giving too, and so you creating that, Nicola, is beautiful and a testament to.
Well, I didn't create it.
No.
I wish I could take credit for the idea. I did not. I was just brought to help grow it and to help grow it and lead it. Having been in these people's roles before, it's been really fun. I love it. I thank my lucky stars every day that I get to do it. When I say, sounds cliche when you say you have a dream job, but I kind of do. It's pretty cool.
That's what we want to hear, especially as the evolution of engagement continues, and to be cognizant of the time. I know we're coming up on that cutoff for you, Nicola, but we really appreciate this. I mean, for the limited time that we had you, talk about some serious intel and insights.
Here.
Yeah, for real. And we really appreciate that, because I think that's the key. It's literally the essence of why Marcus and I created this. It doesn't matter where you are in it. It still is engagement, and there's still an evolution to it. So we really appreciate it.
Definitely.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm happy to come back any other time. When for anybody listening, this was unscripted. I had no idea what we were going to talk about, and I cannot believe these 30 minutes have just flown by. This has been great.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it so much. Well, again, thank you.
I'm going to drop. Bye, everybody.
Peace.
Thank you, Nicola. Thank you.
Did it too fast. All right. Please don't be mad at me.
That is amazing. That was truly amazing, and I hope everyone was able to get some piece of information. And
Yeah.
regardless, Marcus, you and I will be able to hopefully parse that together and send it out to people too, because there was a lot of really great gems in there.
There were so many gems in there, and I think that there's things that I heard today that I'm like, okay, I can take that into my next meeting, right? Or when I'm off, but my next kind of conversation where we are talking about consumers and experiences and things like that, like I can use some of this information. So I definitely think there were some gems in there. So we didn't get to connect on the kind of the current events, but we have some things we could talk about there. We have about 7-8 minutes left, I think, or
Yeah. We got some
yeah.
time. I mean, I think it's important to highlight kind of what's been going on. Obviously,
Yeah.
ComplexCon and Formula One were just happening recently. I did not make it to either, but I did see a lot on ComplexCon, and certainly I have a couple friends that were over at Formula One. But I would love to hear kind of your take if you saw anything, Marcus. I mean, it seems like some people were going a little bit bigger this year,
Yeah.
which is great. Sometimes bigger is better, and then other times I'm always like, well, don't be too flashy, But yeah.
Yeah, well, with ComplexCon this year, it was almost, ComplexCon usually stands on its own.
Yeah.
And in the past years, they have had large creator partnerships across the board. And this year it was with Travis Scott, and Travis really kind of took it to that next level. He had packages, right? So you could buy a ticket, and it comes with like all of these exclusive drops with Travis Scott. He also had a few like set up. So he had like his in-home studio that kind of like a replica of that. And he did different designs to kind of bring it to life. I did see a lot of brands out there show up to ComplexCon. Everybody had a booth. There were some people I'm like, you had a booth there? And I guess I haven't been. And so I need to, and I got invited this year. I just couldn't make it. But I need to see how the experience of all of these booths in one place really drives.
Here's something that now it could have just been my experience.
Yeah.
Could have been that is the reason for the experience. When I got my Timberland Ralph Lauren collab shoe, the boots at the show a couple of years ago, I remember thinking to myself, like, this is what it's about. There's like an exclusivity of like a drop or an appearance by someone, and you go, yep, this is why I'm here. This is what I'm trying to get. This is what I'm there's something about it, and I think that's the driver. Obviously it's also very like streetwear focused. It's brand affinity focused, so it's like I get it. I was in a booth, I saw the Ralph Lauren Timberland booth, and I said, well, this seems like really cool to check out. And then I saw the shoes and was like, well, I got to get these boots now. So I guess there's that essence to it. But that's the only time I ever went, and anything I've been seeing ever since, it's like, here's the driver for the engagement, and then here's like the product and or just what it is that you should totally get.
Yeah, and I think that's the interesting part, is being able to kind of like drive consumers to purchase. It's this guy named Jay Tips who he does Saucony. Hopefully I say Saucony's, but somebody may say Saucony. I don't know. But he had a fire spot, and he was actually announcing his latest drop with the brand. And the previous year he did a setup, and it was fly as well. So I could see the consistency. If you keep showing up, people are going to recognize that you're there. So again, it's definitely heightened driving engagement. Of course, there's some business things tied to it as well. And then Complex also, I think they did a lot of exclusive announcements as well during that time. So definitely a great experience, I think, all the way around. So I'm excited to see some of the reports that come out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to touch on, there's just for the sake of like what's been going on, and obviously the holiday season is one where there's just tons of different experiences. And
Yeah.
I was in New York recently, and the Target Winter Wonderland experience is a really cool, like, just this pop-up takeover
Yeah.
in near the Chelsea market, and it's really cool. I always love it, and it's like only a 2-day experience that happens in a few different cities across the states.
Right.
Another one too that is been making its waves across social media is the Louis Vuitton flagship store. It's the construction that's going on.
Yeah.
How they like wrapped it up into what is basically the Louis Vuitton luggage case, suitcases, and
Yeah.
then their store right across the street. Like I went in it, and it was just, I mean, talk about immaculate detail and curation down to its core. And I'm like, yeah, this is obviously there's money,
Yeah.
stretching a little bit differently there. But I guess why I bring it up is sometimes it's all about curating. It's just all like, what is that user journey? Nicola was mentioning it too. It's really powerful,
Yeah. And it's Louis Vuitton has, they apply pressure in so many different ways, and to be a fly on the wall, to see the CAD or the 3D drawings of prior to what we saw, those are my favorite moments. You like, damn, that's gonna look cool, and then you see it, and you're like, that it looked just like the drawing.
It looked cool. I mean, I was up there like trying to touch the thing because I'm like, this can't be real.
Yeah.
But like it was. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. This past weekend was F1. Me personally, it didn't come across my timeline as much as it's had in the previous years. I wonder if there was just kind of a different direction in the content, or maybe just my followers didn't go this year. Did you see anything that caught your eye?
More collaboration announcements. Like I saw like MasterCard announcing a collaboration with, I think, like one of the racers or vehicles or something like that, or maybe it was an automotive company, and I can't remember. But just seeing these collaborations and like brand partnerships, but not too much of like any activations. And what? That might not be the case this year. I mean, it gets increasingly harder over in Vegas, and I know there's a lot happening, a lot of noise there, like both literally and figuratively. So it's a lot of things are happening, and one that's coming up that you and I are obviously pretty always putting a pulse on is Art Basel, Miami.
On the way.
There's a lot more brands showing up at these tentpole events that you kind of think wouldn't always be the case.
Yeah.
But like, you go to your Cannes Lion, you go to your Art Basel, you go to, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head, but I can't. And like
CES or South by Southwest. Yeah. I think Art Basel. Have you seen that people been charging for the event list? That like people just circulate around. Maybe I just seen it on Threads, but
like someone's charging for the event list that
they made. Like, what are you talking about? The events are free. That's wild.
I haven't seen it. But I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to know if they're getting anything off of it.
Yeah. Did I send you my list?
No, I'd love to see it.
I'll send you my list. Remind me. Don't let me forget. Art Basel is on the way. I'm excited to see what comes out of that, and what brands show up and how they show up. Then immediately after that is Rolling Loud, which is going to be interesting again this year. They have Travis Scott, Future, and Playboy Cardi, I think, is the main headlines, which is crazy every night to have someone of that caliber, those levels of talent. And then then that'll lead us right into our final episode for 2024.
I guess a good time to kind of like wrap this up. We are we're excited because we're going to try to kick off a really amazing year, or finish it strong with an hour and a half long episode on December 20th. I believe we're eyeing for, and where we're going to have a multitude of guests. So it would be great because we just want people to kind of give that end of the year rendition of what happened this year.
What happened? Joe, this show will truly be inspired by the MTV rap end of the year, kind of the BET, like what happened throughout the year, these big moments in culture, but specifically from an event experiential space. We are definitely only going to focus on the highs and the ways of improvement.
There might be some lows, you know, like there's
Some lows,
lows.
but you never know who's watching. So the lows are ways of improvement, is how
That's right. I like that. I like that.
and then also kind of what we're anticipating for the year. So you never know who's going to be on the show. I think we got some big names that are brewing. I'm going to hype it up because there's one person group that I want on the show, and I'm calling them out because I sent them a message, and that is Shop Drop Daily. Come on over. Like, we need you all to pull up on the show. People would be very interested in how you all capture content around experiences, specifically shopping experiences around the world. So Shop Drop Daily, hit me back. Let's talk. But yeah, no, it will be a great show. So again, December 20th, you'll see the show go live, or the invite. Bring your people. It's right before the holiday. You know, you ain't working. Come on over. Come on over and hang out with us for an hour and 30 on December 20th. So yeah.
This has been great. I mean, Marcus, you and I coming up on that you know, almost full year mark of doing this, and it's really been wonderful. And I know this episode was powerful with having Nicola on that first 30 minutes. So I'm, you know, for everyone that joined or is on right now, you know, this has been a really great you know, really great episode for the holiday week that it is here in the States. But you know, this just keep tuning in, because the evolution of engagement does not stop.
Don't stop. It does not stop. No, this was a really good episode. A lot of things to take from it. You'll see the recap drop, as well as access to rewatch this again from continuing on. But yeah, we're excited to close out the year on evolution of engagement. Thank you to all the fans, and not fans, all of the community. I don't have fans. The community for joining in and just tuning in and commenting and giving us, you know, feedback, but also just engaging with the audience, as well as the guests that we have on the show.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, everyone. Marcus, great to just discuss everything, and have a good Thanksgiving, man.
Yeah, man, I will. Hopefully the Cowboys win. So that's my, you know.
Hey, I'm good. I'm good with my Buffalo Bills just doing their thing.
Buffalo is tough. They do their thing. All right, then.
Have a good one. Bye.